Good afternoon. It's February the 10th, 2021. Welcome to episode 15. I suppose we need a name for this, these series of videos, and I'd love to hear your ideas as to what we should name these. Drop that in the comments below. Secondly, you'll notice I'm back to quote-unquote a more natural background. This is what's actually behind me. And it's in my office, and it's maybe a little bit cluttered to my wife's chagrin. But there it is. And I do have a green screen, and I've used it in the past, but I can't generate a background behind it. And so it can be kind of grating on the nerves. And so I'm waiting until I can get that figured out, so the background is more pleasing to the eye. So I want to start out by asking this question. It's 1968, and you want to get your news. How do you get it? Well, in those days, there were three primary ways that you got your news. There was radio, and of course there you could listen to radio at home or in your car, or if you had a transistor radio, as long as the batteries lasted, you were good. You could get your news on the radio. Secondly, newspapers. And newspapers were a very big part of the mix back in those days. Not just the big papers like the New York Times and the Washington Post, but newspapers all over the United States were big, and people, it was part of their daily routine. They would read the newspaper in the morning or when they came home from work in the afternoon. So those were the ways, but I want to focus primarily on TV and how people got their TV news. In 1968, Walter Cronkite was on CBS, Chet Huntley and David Brinkley were on NBC, and Frank Reynolds was on ABC. And at 6:30 or 7:30 in the evening, you sat down and you watched the nightly news. And it was a ritual. A lot of people did it. A lot of people across the United States, whether you're in Greeley, Colorado, or Omaha, Nebraska, or Syracuse, New York, or Jacksonville, Florida, or Yuma, Arizona, or Portland, Oregon, it didn't make any difference. You sat down and all watched the same nightly newscast. So that meant that if you lived in Arizona and you got on a plane and you flew out to North Carolina or to New York, and you got off the plane the next day, you could talk about what you saw on the nightly news the night before, and it was something that other people in other parts of the country would have seen and experienced as well. Common language. George Gerbner, former dean of the Annenberg School of Communication, University of Pennsylvania, describes this kind of a mainstreaming, a town hall, a street corner where people gathered together from all over the country and attended to the same televised news experience. So there was that, the experience, the effect on the viewers. Secondly, the effects on the broadcasters. Folks in the national networks thought about the fact that they were broadcasting to people from all over the United States, all the different places I've mentioned, rural, urban, suburban, people out on farms and ranches, people from all different races and backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds, people from different political and ideological backgrounds, all came together. And the networks, I'm sure there were constraints that the way they packaged the news that they deliver to us. And again, Gerbner talks about these things. In 1980, and we want to step forward now from 68 to 80, was the launch of the cable news network, or what we refer today as CNN. And for many years, they were the only all news network. And then in 1996, CNN was joined by MSNBC and Fox News. Today, I believe that besides those big three, there's another 10 American cable TV news networks, and another 6 that are foreign, but broadcast here in the United States, like BBC News, for example. And with the advent of now all these different cable news networks, people are choosing where they're going to get their TV news. Natalie Jimini Stroud, who is a faculty member at the University of Texas at Austin, my alma mater, says that indeed that's what happens and that people do choose the network news that they want to watch. And she labels this as partisan selective exposure. People stereotypically, and this should come as no surprise to you, people more on the left end of the political spectrum would probably attend to MSNBC, whereas people on the right end of the political spectrum tend to choose Fox News. There are others, and they're all across the spectrum when it comes to these things, and people choose the one that they want to watch. So there's that. And so already we have gone from broadcasting now to increasingly more narrowcasting. But I want to take that one step further and to fast forward to the modern era. What do I mean by the modern era? So in a 2007 book written by Cass Sunstein, who was a faculty member at Harvard Law, who has just recently accepted a position in the current administration, Cass Sunstein wrote a book entitled Republic.com 2.0. And in that book, Sunstein talks about the first chapter is entitled The Daily Me. Let me read a little bit. In 1995, MIT technology specialist Nicholas Negroponte prophesied the emergence of the Daily Me, a communications package that is personally designed with each component fully chosen in advance. This was 1995 that Negroponte said this. Here's Sunstein's comment on that. Negroponte's prophecy was not nearly ambitious enough. As it turns out, you don't need to create a daily me. Others can create it for you. If people know a little bit about you, they can discover and tell you what people like you tend to like, and they can create a daily me just for you in a matter of seconds. And that's where we are today. In 1968, other people chose the news that you got, whether it was in the newspaper or on broadcast news. Today, because of the advancement of computers that we now no longer or sit on our desktops, but we carry in our hands, computers feed us the news that we choose, the algorithms that you're very well aware of. You get the news that you choose. So that's where we are today. I apologize. This has been a very, very rapid flyover of 30, 40 years of media history. But I hope it's been helpful. It sets the table for what I want to talk about next week, because now we talk about social media and like YouTube, but also Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and so forth, and how that plays into our current landscape and our current media, our current where we sit today. I hope you found this helpful. If so, share it with others. I'd love to hear your comments. Again, I apologize for the way we've flown through this, and I've exceeded my time limit a little bit. But I'd love to hear your comments below, and I hope to see you next week when we continue and talk about social media and where we are in our current cultural discourse. Thanks, and have a great day.